I am holding a duck. If you're wondering why is she holding a duck? The answer is quite simple. This is a very, very good example. Maybe the best example. We'll find out if they win tonight, the award here at South by Southwest, of disruption for good. This is the My Aflac duck. And this duck is currently purring in my arms, which was a request from one of the children suffering from cancer who was receiving chemotherapy at the same time that his My Aflac duck was also receiving chemotherapy through this this portal here. And so a dear friend of ours who's part of our group of innovators had this duck at dinner the other night, and Shaku and I were very moved to bring the duck up here and to say to all of you who are watching, there's 3,000 of these. They're free to children from 3 to 13 who are in hospitals across America. There's 3,000 in hospitals right now, and there's another 10,000 ready to go that My Aflac, or Aflac, the company, wants to make sure get to the kids. And all you have to do is get your healthcare professional to ask for this duck. Ask for My Aflac duck. Hi.
Hey.
Welcome.
Morning.
And with that, we'll start our second panel, which is about disruption for good. And I'd like to introduce my esteemed guests, and I'll start down at the end. And this time, by the way, where we're talking about dystopia, and we're talking about technology taking over and AI and scary futures that look like Blade Runner 2049 and all of this. There's also a lot of technology being used for really, really good things. And so we thought we'd come together and look at how that's happening with some of these people who are on the absolute front edge of making that happen. So Shaku Selvakumar, oh my gosh, let me pull up my notes. I've just been talking up a storm. Shaku is a marketing and innovation leader with multi-country, multinational, and startup experience, having worked for Fortune 500 companies like IBM, Shell Oil, and fast-growth startups. She's currently the founder and CEO of Activiteen. Activiteen, sorry. It's like that yogurt. Activiteen, a collaborative program for teenagers that combines technology understanding with emotional wellness. She also serves as the community impact advisor at Cognitive Scale, one of the leading core artificial intelligence startups, garnering awards and influencer endorsement and driving demand. Whoa, the backpack fell off the duck. Can you pass this down? She really wants to hold it. She loves the duck.
I love the duck. I love the duck.
Maybe we can put the backpack back on. And has won many awards from many, many different groups. Sally Eaves.
Hello.
Sally,
hi everyone. Hi.
Welcome to WeTalk, Sally, and thank you for coming all the way across the Atlantic for us. I know it was just for us. Sally is described as the torchbearer for ethical tech. She has founded Aspirational Futures to help skill, empower, and support the next generation of interdisciplinary talent into careers yet to be conceived. She also is the social impact lead for the UK's Government Blockchain Association. We need a full education from you, Sally, today. And is the inaugural recipient of the Frontier Technology and Social Impact Award presented at the United Nations in 2018, which Susan also has. So Susan and Sally need to have a meeting directly after this. Because as soon as I read that, I thought of Susan and Shift 7, which has a very similar mission to what, and actually, you all have to, let's have the meeting now. That's what WeTalk's all about. You're all doing this. You're all driving for sustainable change, purpose-driven change. And I'm going to cut off your bio because it's too much. It's just too impressive. Susan, fellow Yale alumna, Susan Alzner is the co-founder of Shift 7. We had Megan Smith here last year, 1 year ago, who founded Shift 7 with Susan. The mission is advancing tech-forward, open, shareable practices to drive impact that is direct, particularly through scouting and scaling promising solution makers and solutions. There is an incredible gap between the amount of jobs and those that are trained to fill it in this country, and Shift 7 is on a mission to make sure that to lessen that gap and give people opportunities where they actually exist, it turns out. But we'll talk more about that with us. Also, the UN. Susan led public engagement at the United Nations from 2010 to 2018 and received a UN Secretary General Staff Award for teamwork in 2015 and was recognized as a finalist of the UN Secretary General Staff Award for managing change in 2016. And part of that is she opened the UN to speakers. So if you saw the WeTalk with On Her Shoulders that was here a year ago, that was thanks to Susan opening the UN to, I think it's people could petition or people could request.
People
right?
could apply. Anyone
apply.
from anywhere in the world could apply to address the highest level UN summits, finally.
Huge innovation at the UN, no small thing. And right now, Susan has taken a leave and is relocated to help the Havasupai tribe fight drilling in the Grand Canyon.
Uranium mining.
Uranium mining. Doesn't that include a drill?
Slightly toxic for 4.5 billion years, that's all.
Right. So there's that, which is not the subject of this panel, but just a little side note, because Susan's a very busy woman, you should realize just how many cylinders she's operating on. Kathryn, and this is going to be I win if I get this name right, Schotthoefer. Darn it, I'd lose. I lose, but isn't that the thing about tech? You lose and lose and lose, and that's winning.
I want to nickname her Kathryn Schotthoefer.
Yeah, well, they're good friends, and they are. And Kathryn's the founder and CEO of Original Media Ventures, which focuses on scaling diverse storytellers and inclusive stories across all forms of media. Including film, television, advertising. You launched Represent, a digital platform that offers professional development and paid opportunities. Again, closing the gap, trying to take underrepresented voices and bring them into the media and put them into the light. And I will ask you more about that. But before that, I'll just continue to spew about your many accomplishments, including honored changemaker at the White House State of Women's Summit in 2016 for your work in refugee camps overseas. We have a video to share of your work. Let's look at it.
Well, I believe that sometimes it's difficult to do something that nobody else has done before. So the only thing that's really original or unique is you.
Awesome.
All right.
So I just to explain what a disruptive technology is, something that disrupts an entire business or vertical. So there's 3D printing, for example, that's even used in cinema, like in First Man, or you could 3D print prosthetic limbs, or you have the duck that, finally helps children get through something that for all of us is the most terrifying, chemotherapy, pain, terror, fear of death. A soft duck can be disruptive technology. What today is the most disruptive technology that we're looking at? And how is something like blockchain helping to bring that forth? And I open it up to all of you.
So the duck is really purring, And I think there's something I heard, the world is getting better and better and worse and faster. So when anyone says, oh, this was like the industrial age or the agricultural age, no, it is not. It's all happening at the same time. And so technologies that are not created to serve or solve or improve are actually there for, someone's arrogant need for validation, right? And there are other ways to do that. But where we are right now is there's this convergence when we're looking at artificial intelligence, and there's good tech where in healthcare, I was just at a healthcare panel, moderating female founders in health tech. And they're doing incredible things, from this 19-year-old who's working on conversion health and to this, to the other end of the spectrum, someone developing Unaliware, who's developing a watch for senior citizens. So there's good tech, and like the Aflac duck, there's tech that can actually help. But I do believe that we are at a stage where we need more governance, we need more policing, we need more ethics, so we don't go to hell in a handbasket.
Oh boy, here we go. I've spent the last 2 days doing interviews about hell in a handbasket with tech.
Okay, great.
So I was really excited to just talk about positive things today.
Okay.
But yeah, there's some terrifying potential conclusions that if we just focus on the bottom line and profit and nothing else and not human welfare, and we don't bring that into the picture, we're going to end up there very, very quickly, actually. So our dystopian vision could very well come true. But Sally, you're on the front edge of stopping that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to change the narrative. It's very important to have balance. We need to look at both sides of these things, but I'm very passionate about how we can harness technology for good, how we can amplify that message and show really tangible examples of change and get people inspired again by technology, and also provide pathways to get involved in that, to skill, to transition, and to apply these projects in everyday life. I think blockchain's a classic example of that, very much conflated with cryptocurrency, often attracts a lot of negative press because it's misunderstood. But actually, this can be an absolutely transformational technology, not just for business, but for social impact too. So one of the things I'm doing with UK Parliament and also with the UN is contributing to policy development around this and also around AI, but looking at tech integration and how to bring voices together. So we can't have these silos of activity, academia and research here, civil society, big business, small startups that are really leading the bleeding edge. We need to kind of join these conversations together. And blockchain in particular can make a huge change.
How does blockchain do that? Because I was actually doing an interview more on the positive side with someone on the front edge of smart cities, and the idea of really rethinking how we use technology to bring different aspects of our city life together. And she was saying it's all about collaboration. It's all about all the different silos talking to each other.
Absolutely.
And pulling those walls down. How can blockchain help that? For most people, for most of us, we don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I think it's probably the most misunderstood technology there is. Even the word kind of isn't really representative of what it does. Yeah, absolutely. It's a block in itself. I couldn't agree more. Really, it's a way of storing and transacting anything of value. And that doesn't have to be money. It can be a lot of other different things. And I think where we can see the most impact from a social impact point of view is, for example, providing identity. So with blockchain, you have this transparent, traceable audit trail. You have proof of provenance. So if you think of food as one example, or something I've been working recently, which is something called oud, more known in the Middle East, but also known in perfumes and things in the Western world as well. At the moment, $10 to $20 billion a year of that trade is illegal, and everybody is missing out. So governments are missing out in terms of taxes. The farmers who are developing these trees and growing them, they're losing out in terms of getting an absolute minuscule amount of what this product's worth at the end of the day. And also there's a massive environmental impact. These trees are destroyed because there isn't the technology skills available. So there's effectively, they have to damage them to make the project happen. So at every different level, everybody's losing out. Blockchain can provide that transparency right from effectively from the field to the end user, to the end retailer. And identity for refugees, and also the underbanked. 1.7 billion people in the world are underbanked or not banked at all. I think with blockchain technology, we've got a way to close that gap. And I'm doing something specifically on that.
What are you saying? They're what? They're
underbanked or unbanked.
What does that mean?
No access to a financial bank account, for example. And that can be a massive barrier to change, to develop themselves. And if we think about it, five times more people in the world have a phone than have a bank account. So again, this whole thing about collaboration, you bring together mobile phone providers, mobile services, blockchain technology, the more we can integrate, we can really close so many of the gaps that we all care about here.
This time last year, we were talking on the same kind of panel, actually, with Megan, about 3D printing school supplies in the neighborhood. Instead of throwing your plastics into a trash can and having that taken away to some recycle center, actually recycling 37,000 plastic water bottles a day. This woman who was here, who's amazing, had invented this 3D printer that could do that. And it's like, well, if we could just get the government to talk and people to talk, we would all be able to go down to the school and bring our plastics down there and turn those into school supplies. And it's that kind of the use of technology that already exists that could be implemented from people talking to each other. Can we see the picture that was up when we introduced Sally? Is that easy enough to pull up? Because I kind of want to ask you about this. What is happening here, Sally?
Okay, so that's two projects I've been involved in. One of those is in India. So we set up a rural school in a slum area. And again, it was a great example of bringing together local communities. Businesses were donating hardware. We were repurposing that. We also got together with a phone provider. And we were looking at illiteracy, which runs in families. And there's a big issue around that. So mum and dad, for example, may not be able to read themselves. And that creates a barrier in terms of learning with their children. And what we did was we repurposed old phones. We didn't even need internet with that. We used cloud technology, and for the first time mums and dads could use this tech as a medium to read to their children at night. Incredibly powerful, absolutely breaking these cycles and providing new chances. And so that was one of the projects there. We're also doing a lot of stuff around healthcare technology in that one. The other one is in the UAE, where I'm launching hubs under aspirational futures, getting more girls into coding, changing some of the stereotypes that have been, and that was a reward actually I received at one of the events I did. But it's all about using blockchain, using AI, but also repurposing older tech to break down these barriers. And that was an example there. So I like to work very internationally, different types of contexts, different types of cultures, and bring all the different learning aspects from this together and really create change and measure it as well.
So you're with children there, and then Shaku has Activiteen for kids. And then Susan, you're also working very much to try to bring young people into the tech sector. Can you two speak about that? Start with Susan. Why don't you tell us what Shift 7's doing?
Sure. Shift 7, when you type it, you get and. So it's really focused on inclusive collaboration and ensuring that we're using tech-forward innovation to achieve sustainability. And that has 3 dimensions, which you would know from the UN as economic, social, and environmental considerations. So we're really looking at the intersection there and trying to help progress for companies or other initiatives that understand the balance of those 3. If you pull too hard on economic development and you don't consider the environment, we get out of balance. We get things like climate change. So we have a commitment to sort of demonstrating that we know that solutions already exist everywhere. People already solving in extraordinary ways everywhere. And so let's make sure they get the support they deserve from a full ecosystem, not just money, but also coaching and correct policy, et cetera. So that's the mission of the organization.
Should you two be teaming up?
We all should be teaming up.
Okay, good. That's why we're here.
But on your point about bringing in young people and bringing in all people to what is potentially an incredibly disruptive technology. Technology is neither good nor bad, it's what you do with it, but artificial intelligence, because of what it can do at scale and at speed, is why the potential for disruption is so high, the acceleration component of that. So what we are firmly committed to is diversifying the talent engaged in developing AI, but also diversifying the topics to which AI is applied, because that's how you can also reveal gaps and weaknesses, but also strengths.
Give us an example of that. How should we
so
be,
why,
where
why
should we be
don't why don't we
AI?
use AI for alleviating poverty, or solving the oceans crisis with ocean acidification? Like, there are people everywhere who would dream to solve that at scale and at speed. So if we're teaching AI, we should be ensuring that people can come in with the topics they care about and use AI towards that. But I also this is just a personal note, I really challenge the notion of artificial intelligence. Like, I don't want artificial sweeteners in my food, and I don't want artificial intelligence in my world. I want natural collective intelligence, the best of human instinct, the best of human intuition, always in balance with these technologies.
Heightened collaborative intelligence.
Yes, exactly.
HCI. I'm sure we can do better, but I'm thinking.
We call it augmented intelligence because we are the intelligence, right? And whatever we put into machines is what the machines are going to do. But
we have a panel coming up about mental health and about social media. And I mean, that's a really good example. And I think we should talk about it right here. It was a very disruptive technology, actually. Social media allows us to connect through time and space, has created entire revolutions across the world, but it's also increased suicide rates. And again, it's what you do with it.
Right.
What do we do with social media now?
Right.
How do we steer people if AI or augmented reality augmented intelligence is going to be our best selves? How do we help to bring out our best selves in our youth?
See, so one of the things yesterday at this panel, we asked the kids, what kids don't have much of is sleep. And Esther Perel had this incredible quote. She said, what you touch in the night is your phone. What you touch in the morning is your phone. We're losing relational intelligence. And so it's really important that as a community that we understand that what we do with the tools is up to us. And also at the end of the day, technology is actually democratizing what we can do. So it is allowing us to be part of these powerful grassroots movements to change the world. So, that's on the flip side. And the teens know this. Gen Z knows, they know how to do this. And our job is to coach and champion and mentor. I'm on the board of communities and schools in Central Texas, and they serve on the underprivileged students who are homeless. They suffer from homeless, single family. They come from violence, and these are worlds that we are not privy to because that's the great divide. We live in a society where there is a divide, but we're not seeing it.
How can, and you know what, this is a perfect segue to Kathryn's work, which you have two parts to your mission, two parts to your company that I want to hear about. But how can we apply augmented, I'd like to solve this in the next, 1 minute. We're out of time. How can we get augmented intelligence to pay attention to the underserved and the undervoiced?
I think a lot of it has to do with who has a seat at the table. Yeah. Our focus is on really making sure that storytellers are allowed to tell their own stories. So Evan, who you saw in the video, is a young woman from Los Angeles with no connections to the entertainment industry. She made that video herself. We gave her a budget and a supervising producer, but she directed and produced that. She was a PA for us on one of our other projects. Having people like Evan and thousands more that we now have inside our Represent platform allow people to identify the things that are happening in their own communities, their own priorities, and then lift those up. So what Represent does is provide development, access, the ability to have conversations, and using things like AI and e-learning and all these other tools that are existing. For me, the disruption is in the who and the how we're using it. So it also lets us make sure that those people get employed by brands that are looking to hire them. It's not about going to some big ad agency. It's about making sure that you're paying somebody who can stay in their community in Central Texas and couldn't afford to pick up and move to New York or LA. I mean, there's a big brand win because you're talking to people who are actually your consumers, but also for people to be able to stay where they are, contribute to their own communities. And then the other side, the studio side of our business, lets people share film, television, podcast, book, graphic novels, whatever projects they want to pitch out. There's a lot of people, we read in the trades all the time, everybody's looking to buy content, and then they're going to the same 5 sources for them, when there are so many people that have the talent and the capacity to tell those stories. So our job is to stand in the middle and give them the tools that they need to connect the dots.
What are we looking at there?
So what you're looking at here, sorry, glasses are smudgy. So what you're looking at here is just a landing page for Represent. So if you know anyone who is an aspiring storyteller, they can just go to heretorepresent.com, they register, and then you can easily start getting through things like watching video about what is IP and how do you protect yourself, or what is a manager and do you actually need one? Because a major issue we have with marginalized communities is the vulnerability to exploitation when it comes to media and entertainment businesses.
Get a manager if you can get one. My advice.
But they're also able to learn things about story structure and character development. So we look at both the content side and then the business side. And we're able to do things like one-to-many or one-to-one remote mentorship. So again, you can be in Central Texas and have a mentor who's working on a television show in Los Angeles. Everything is done through a secured channel so that we don't have to worry about things like, as much about things like exploitation. Because the mentor side knows that everything they're doing is being watched by us.
So I would say that we already have a theme emerging for WeTalk South by Southwest 2019, which is how can we use media, how can we use technology to give voice to everyone? Because the fact is the ideas that are really the most disruptive are coming from far-flung places.
They have their voices, we need to listen.
We need to listen and give them a way to communicate, right?
And it's at the intersection of everyone that the best solutions lie. And this is actually the magic of the UN. People say it's slow, but it's slow for a reason, because it's developing this common understanding amongst all cultures of the world. And the more people that we can include in these kinds of decision making, whether it's for grand global politics or your local community solutions, the easier it is to go ahead with it at scale.
And since we're all sort of badass women up here, can we just leave with a stat about women in tech? Do we have any stats about the gap? Does Shift 7 have any stats about how many people do not have jobs and how many jobs there are?
Well, there's going to be, the current statistics on open tech jobs is 2 million by 2020. That needs to be filled. So we're a partner on a tech jobs tour to help provide more opportunity for diverse talent to enter the tech sector. And Kathryn, maybe you can provide the statistic on VC funding for women. And
we just had that. It was 2%.
Yeah, it's like
2% for women as a whole. Women of color, 0.32% for Latinas, and 0.0006% for Black women.
Okay.
So we have a lot of work to do.
6%
Had to practice those stats because they're so bad.
A specific one then on a particular area, blockchain, so 6% women, blockchain.
Okay. Shaku, how many teens are in your program? Can we end on a positive note?
We've just launched the Spring Pathway program, and we've got machine learning, VR, all the good stuff. And I want teens to actually know that they have a choice, that they don't have to go into college debt and spend 4 years. I want them to become self-reliant. Choice is the most important freedom that we can have.
So I want to say we're going to post links for all of this, so don't try to bend your brain or take out your pen. It's too late for that now. We'll post links for all of this, and I want to thank you all for all the great work that you're doing. Our next panel is actually going to be about storytelling in the digital age, so we're going to continue on this airplane ride that we're on here. And in the meantime, we're going to look at highlights from one of the past WeTalks 2018. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.